I'm Sarah, and today we're going to be looking at a few basic knife skills. We're going to learn how to slice, dice, chop, and mince. We're going to be using our chef's knife when we cut our vegetables today. And I also have my silicone cutting board here, and you want to make sure you stabilize your cutting board with some kind of material. I'm using a piece of drawer liner so that my cutting board does not slide around when I cut. This is how you hold your chef's knife. You're going to take these 3 fingers and grasp the handle close to the heel of the blade. And you're going to grasp the blade with your thumb and your forefinger. So holding it with your thumb and forefinger, other 3 fingers curl around the blade. And this gives you more control when you're cutting your vegetables. Whenever you cut something, you want to make sure that your knife, the tip of your knife, is at the upper left-hand corner and the handle is at the bottom right of your cutting board. Unless, of course, if you're left-handed, then your tip would be at the upper right and the handle will be at the lower left. And when you move your knife, you want to use a rocking motion like this. Let's start out by cutting the onion. I'm going to show you guys how to dice your onion. You have your root end right here, and you're going to cut off just the hairy part at the end. That's a little bit messy. Yeah, just the hairy part. You want to make sure that the root stays intact because that is going to keep the onion from falling apart when we're cutting. So, and then we're going to cut off just a little bit of the other end. And you don't want to throw this away. This end can be saved in a plastic bag and used for making stock later on. So I like to save the ends of my vegetables and peels in a plastic bag, and then when I make stock, I can take out the peels from the onions and carrots and whatever I've been using and use them to make stock. We're gonna turn our onion upside down like this so that the flat part is down. And we're gonna cut from pole to pole straight down in half. So now we have our 2 onion halves. Just take your knife and go under the skin and peel away the onion skin. And again, you don't want to throw this skin away, it's good for making stock. When you hold anything that you're cutting, you want to make sure that your fingers are curled. Because if your fingers are not curled, there's a potential that you could cut your fingers. This is called the claw grip. All of your fingers, including your thumb, are curled inwards so that there is no potential for you to cut off the tips of your fingernails. So to dice our onion, we're going to make a series of cuts along the onion. About 3/4 of the way through. We don't want to cut all the way to the core because that's what's going to hold our onion together. So depending on how fine the recipe says that the dice needs to be, your slices will be closer or farther apart. So if it says a fine dice, your slices will be close together. So we're just going to cut all the way down, 3/4 of the way through, from one side to the other. Whoops. Okay. And for onions, you could possibly cut this way a little bit if you want to, horizontally, but it's not necessary because the layers of the onion will break apart once you cut down. It's not necessary to cut across, but if you want to, that's totally fine. Now it's time for us to cut downward. And when we cut down, all of those onion pieces are going to break into little dices. Next skill we're going to learn is how to chop. Chopping means you're just cutting it into pieces of no particular size or shape. So there really is no definitive rule or procedure for how to chop something. I'm going to be chopping a potato right now. So first I'm just going to cut it in half. I'm going to make a few cuts one way. Then I'm going to turn it over and make cuts the other way. I'm just going to come out in little pieces. For dicing round objects such as potatoes, this is how you would do it. I like to cut off a little bit of the sides first to make it flatter. That way it just stands better on the cutting board. For dicing, you will cut another series of cuts one way to make a bunch of flat rectangular pieces. For sake of time, I'm just going to do half of it. And you're going to stack the pieces, cut another series of cuts. This potato is a little bit wet, so it kind of sticks to the knife when I cut it. Then you're going to turn your pieces around and cut across. And then you have your dice. What we're going to learn is how to slice. And slicing is exactly what it sounds like. It's slicing. So you're just going to cut uniform pieces straight down into thin slices. And that's how you slice. Straight down, thin pieces. And there you have your slices. Last, let's learn how to mince. I have a clove of garlic here. To break the clove, take your chef's knife, put it on top of the clove with the blade facing away, and pound on it to break the skin. So you can just easily peel the skin away. Then we're going to cut off the brown root end, because we don't want to be eating that. Then chop up the clove into pieces. After it's chopped, we're just going to put it on a pile and just randomly go up and down until all of the pieces of the clove are minced. And that's how you mince garlic.